This is the coolest coin in my collection. Tesla, Houdini, murder, invention, excitement, and more are intertwined with this 90% silver coin from the 1893 World's Fair that you can still get your hands on. Find out why this is a coin for every collection today on the Culture of Currency. I purchased this coin for just over $20, and yet it has more significant history than most any coin that I can think of. The reason being is that this was minted for just 2 years, 1892 and 1893, for the Chicago World's Fair honoring 400 years of Columbus landing in America. This was the first time in U.S. history an identifiable person's face graced our coinage, and it was not Washington or any American. It was a European and Columbus. This coin broke the tradition of having Liberty or other muses of American fixtures on a coin and transitioned to having faces like Washington. What is even more amazing is the two most iconic coin engravers in Barber and Morgan, each one writes to design one of the sides. This obverse was designed by Barber, who created many of our old iconic coins like this, while the reverse was designed by Morgan, who is most notable for the Morgan dollar, but also created many coins. I guess this is the real head-to-head or head-to-tails battle of who is the best. Tell me in the comments who you think won the battle, the obverse in Barber or the reverse in Morgan. These coins have a face value of $0.50, but were sold for $1 as a commemorative coin and were actually the first commemorative coin in U.S. history. Another first in the increasing love I have for this coin. Hundreds of thousands were sold at the World's Fair in Chicago in 1883 as souvenirs, and the others, completing the overall mintage of 2.5 million, were released at face value into general circulation. So why is this coin so cool? Well, it's a combo of Morgan and Barber. It is the first commemorative coin in U.S. history. It is the first time in U.S. history to highlight faces of real people, and it was struck for an iconic historical event, which we will now dive into. Chicago was selected to host the Columbian World's Fair, beating out other cities like New York because it raised more money. This was like the Met Gala, Grammy Awards, United Nations, and World Thinkers had a baby. A copious amount of inventions, botanicals, art, music, world cultures, architecture, and other things found their way to Chicago for this event, drawing presidents, celebrities, and dignitaries from around the world. A giant city of neoclassical buildings connected by artificial waterways, lagoons, and islands stood in the blaze of electric lights, which was a new way of looking at the World's Fair. Westinghouse beat out Edison for the rights to power the city after buying the patent for alternating currents from Nikola Tesla, though Edison still did okay in the show as he highlighted his new invention you might have heard of, called the light bulb. He also had a kinetoscope, which is basically like a video camera. We should also note that this is the first time the Pledge of Allegiance was ever performed. Do you like Cracker Jacks, peanut butter, maybe Vienna sausage, Juicy Fruit gum, Wrigley's gum, or Pabst Blue Ribbon beer? This fair was the debut of such items. Maybe you would have enjoyed those items while listening to the likes of Scott Joplin, Antonin Dvorak, Jean-Philippe Sousa, or maybe the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, who all performed at this fair. This was also the home of the first ever Ferris wheel, which, by the way, was not some dinky Ferris wheel like you see at a county fair run by felons. This was a giant wheel that stood 264 feet tall and had 30 gondolas that each held 60 people for a total of 2,160 riders at a time. What is even more interesting is the cost to ride the Ferris wheel was 50 cents. Meaning this coin I am holding could have been a transaction to ride the very first Ferris wheel at the World's Fair. The total number of riders came in around 1.4 million, so it may not be as far-fetched of an idea as you think. In this menagerie of megamines also lay relics of the past, such as Viking boats, replicas of the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria, and other things. Visitors could experience moving sidewalks and gondola rides or bask under the colored lights created by Louis Tiffany Comforts himself. Maybe you would catch a show by Harry Houdini as he performed his magic for the visitors. Just outside the show, one could see Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show. One could hear the ignition of powder as the precursor to the howitzer shot rounds through steel plates. Or if you were Helen Keller, who was also present, you might not have heard that at all, but would be actively involved in your own presentations. With these visual stimulants all around, it's often hard to understand that there's also great darkness. Serial killer H.H. Holmes frequented this establishment with at least 2 of his victims. Holmes was a twisted individual who was cited for having a hotel eventually called the Murder Castle. This place had trapdoors and dead-end areas as well as gas chambers and other feature designs to trap and disorient guests. Holmes would torture, dismember, and do other terrible things to these individuals in the basement, where he also had a kiln so he could burn the evidence. Experts believe that Holmes is responsible for anywhere from 9 to 200 deaths. However, he only confessed 27. He is one of the dark chapters of the World's Fair, as he was walking in plain daylight, unknown to those around. We also have another notable murder. The mayor of Chicago was assassinated, which effectively closed the World's Fair, which also means we can turn our attention to this coin and put it on our 60-point scale. When we look at the front of this coin, we are met with Barber's Columbian design. We have an excellent front, and for what it's worth, I find it interesting that this is a Columbian half dollar and not just a US half dollar. This unique wordage is something that I cannot recall seeing in other coins. I think it is well designed and scores an 8. When we flip to the back or reverse, we are met with what I believe to be the better of 2 sides in this depiction, brought to you by George Morgan. We have a magnificent boat hugged by the year 1492, which is when Columbus sailed. We see under the vessel 2 hemispheres, which show an incorporation of the whole world, not because Columbus sailed the whole world, but rather to tie in the border text notifying that this is a coin to salute the whole world's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. This is a fantastic side, and it scores a 10. Mintage is where we go next, and it could sink the score a little bit. Like basically all coins for America, this was a fairly mass-produced coin with around 2.5 million produced. This would score a 1 in current times, but if I take this coin for in its day mintage, 2.5 million is actually very, very low. I will split the difference and score it a 5. For cultural significance, we have a coin that highlights 400 years of Columbus. We have a coin that highlights the Fair of the World in Chicago. This is a U.S. coin with U.S. themes for a U.S. held festival highlighting a U.S. icon. Hard not to score it a 10. Collectability is where we venture to next. This coin is not only manufactured to be a collector's item in its day, but it also is the very first commemorative coin in our history. The first to have Morgan and Barber's influence, the first to feature a real person and not an idea, and the first and maybe to only feature a non-American on U.S. coinage. This coin also is 90% silver. This being said, both stackers and numismatists need one of these for their collection, and collectability scores a 10. Our last area is uniqueness. This is a coin for the ages, and so unique that when I saw it, my jaw dropped a little bit, as I didn't even recognize it to be American until I looked at the details. All of the first this coin has for US coinage, and the fact that this was a circulated coin highlighting the World Exposition, makes it one of the most unique coins I've ever held. It scores a 10, which brings me to our final thoughts and score. This 1893 half dollar crosses the line at an elite score of 53 out of 60. Mintage is the only detraction, but that is a good thing for you, as this well over 100-year coin can still be purchased for a decent price. This coin highlights an era that has so much to offer us today. This was the fair that taught humanity about humanity around our world. The ingenuity of all peoples found harmony, with the exception of those who at that time were deemed unworthy and relegated to the peripheries. It is my belief that if there were a World's Fair today, it would do so much good for many people. We are more tolerant as a nation and could use physical representations and displays rather than just look at items on a smartphone. This coin reminds me so much of our world, and it is already one that I hold at the top of my collection. I think this is a coin that every stacker and collector should seek. There is just too much history and culture to ignore. This concludes our video. Thank you so much for watching, and please remember to stay classy and current with the culture of currency.